Greater Good Radio. Connect, learn, heal, and grow.
I had mentors along the whole way. I always had someone that I worked for or with that I really respected, that I could sit down and talk and say, I would like to be like that person. My first commanding officer was a guy who I still stay in touch with to this day. We email almost on a daily basis. And a guy named Bob Mandeville, retired as a 2-star admiral, as a matter of fact. I was happy when he made flag because he was a great leader. He was a commander when I met him, and he brought us all along, and I sat there and watched what he did. And I also talked to him on the side. And he also gave me one of my great good lessons in the military. I was a Navy ROTC graduate. The Navy paid my way through college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. My parents were all very pleased. My dad was a hard worker that came from nothing and did wonderfully well, but no one had ever been to college. The Navy paid my way through school, so I owed them 3.5 years or 4 years of service when I graduated, and I said, well, why not add another year and fly an airplane? So I did that. And then I went into the Navy and flew. And I did my job as best I could, and I worked hard. And I decided, well, I have to pay my time back. I'm going to get a job and get out. My mother said, shouldn't you get a real job? When you're in the Navy like this, it's good to serve your country, but you have a real job. So I actually put in resignation papers to leave the Navy, and I got a job with IBM. I was going to go to work up in Poughkeepsie, New York, where passion comes into. I wasn't passionate about it, although I was a math and physics major in college, and I liked quantitative things. And IBM, and this would have been 1967, was a very exciting place to be going. But nonetheless, I wasn't passionate about it. Well, Bob Mandeville, this guy that was my mentor, pulled me aside one night, and he said, Zap, why are you leaving the Navy? I said, well, because I should go get a job. He said, look, if you're leaving to go to something that you really want to go to do, I'm going to be your biggest backer. But if you're just leaving this to go do something else because you don't like necessarily what you're doing right now, he said, then I'm going to sit down and talk to you about it. So I said, well, talk to me. And so he said, well, you do a very good job. And I said, Skipper, you're the first guy that's ever really pulled me aside and said that overtly to me, gave me that feedback. I said, I thought I was doing pretty well, but nobody. And he said, we really want you to stay in the Navy, and I want you to make my Navy be better. And it was that thing that triggered me in a major way in my life that's been very important to me from now on. I always try to make, and I'm sure that there's anyone that's hearing or watching this that's worked for me and said, Zap never really said that to me, but I apologize to them, but I have tried to make that a big thing, feedback on how you're doing. If you're doing well, people want to hear you're doing well. If you're not doing so well, it's even more important. I've always said it should never be a surprise when evaluation time comes around if I give you a bad evaluation. That's my fault, because we should have talked about that well before so you'd have the chance to move on. But I took that one small thing, and that fits in two ways, Evan. The small example being that for me personally, I said, okay, I'm taking this away. They like me. I'm going to stay in the Navy. I withdrew my resignation papers and stayed for another 30 years, or actually 28 years.
If you resonate with Greater Good Radio, please join our community at www.greatergoodradio.com, where you can get access to exclusive content and offerings. Hope to see you soon.